Man, it has been a wild week in the music world. Seriously. We've got beef, we've got some massive milestones, and we've got the return of some absolute legends. So buckle up, let's get right into it. Pop's greatest supervillain? Whoa, that is quite a title, isn't it? I mean, who could possibly be described that way? A controversial producer, maybe? A rebellious rock star? You know, the answer might actually surprise you. We're going to get to that, but first, let's set the stage for this week's clashes. All right, first up, a war of words. We're going to unpack two really fascinating feuds that are absolutely lighting up the music scene right now.
So on one side, you've got these two giants of rock and roll just trading some seriously heavy blows. And on the other, a really respected songwriter takes aim at, well, arguably the biggest pop star on the planet, even calling her an evil genius. Let's kick things off with the rock legends.
Okay, so Pink Floyd's Roger Waters was on a podcast recently, and he had a lot to say about the great Ozzy Osbourne. He kind of brings up Ozzy's idiocy and nonsense on TV, and then when the topic of Black Sabbath's music comes up, he just says, "I couldn't give a fuck. I couldn't care less." I mean, that is just a completely scathing and dismissive take on a heavy metal icon.
Well, as you can imagine, Ozzy's son, Jack Osbourne, was not about to let that slide. His reply was swift, it was brutal, and it was right to the point. He calls Waters pathetic and out of touch, and then ends with this really sharp jab, basically saying his dad was right about him all along. It's just this powerful, fierce defense of his father's legacy. So, from that old-school rock beef, we are pivoting to a very modern pop controversy. The Australian singer-songwriter Ben Lee, well, he has some very strong and very specific thoughts about Taylor Swift. And what's really fascinating here is how Lee frames his whole argument. He says he finds Swift most interesting not as an artist, but as a CEO. He literally puts her in the same category as Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs. In his eyes, she's a very, very successful capitalist. And this right here, this gets to the absolute core of his critique, which is all about her re-recording her master tapes. Lee calls it the single greatest rock and roll swindle of all time, and claims she cleverly convinced her fans, who he calls her customers, that buying all the same music again was some kind of righteous cause. A really provocative take for sure.
Okay, let's shift gears. Enough of all that conflict. Let's move into celebration mode, shall we? In this section, we're looking at two huge anniversaries in the music world. One is a local legend, the other a global nostalgia trip. 50, a half century. That is a massive, massive milestone, and it belongs to Brisbane's iconic independent community radio station 4ZZ.
Yeah, starting way back in 1975, Triple Z has been this fiercely independent voice for music and news in Queensland, which makes it the state's longest-running FM station. For 5 decades, it's been this vital, people-powered alternative to the mainstream. Just incredible.
And get this, they're capping off their year of celebrations with a massive market day on October 25th. The lineup is absolutely stacked, featuring Brisbane legends Regurgitator, Melbourne's Tropical F Storm, and the iconic punk pioneers, The Saints. Now that is going to be a party.
All right, so from 50, we're jumping down to 25. A quarter of a century has passed since a certain song just completely took over the airwaves and became an anthem for awkward teens everywhere. You know the one.
That's right, Wheatus are celebrating the 25th anniversary of their monster hit Teenage Dirtbag. And to mark it, they're heading out on tour to perform their entire self-titled debut album from start to finish. So for all you noughties nostalgia fans out there, listen up. Here are the Australian dates. They're kicking off in Brisbane on January 15th and then making their way across the country, hitting Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, Hobart, and Fremantle. Get ready to sing your heart out. And for our final section, we're looking to the future. We've got the long-awaited return of some rock royalty and a very special new release from a beloved homegrown band.
You know, this is a question that true rock fans will know the answer to instinctively. How do you go one louder?
Exactly. This iconic quote can only mean one thing. Spinal Tap is back.
That's right, 40 years after the classic rock mockumentary, the original cast and director, Rob Reiner, are all returning for Spinal Tap 2: The End Continues. It's hitting Australian cinemas on September 25th. The amps are officially about to go to 11 once again.
And to wrap things up, we've got some fantastic news for fans of Australian indie rock. The Daisy Cutters have just put out a brand new album.
But hey,
This isn't just any album. Perfume and Cigarettes is a total treasure trove for fans. It's this special collection of demos, B-sides, and rare tracks that spans over 30 years of the band's incredible songwriting history.
Frontman Cameron Wilson said that putting this whole collection together was actually a really cathartic experience for him. After going back and revisiting all their earliest work, he was just so pleased to find that the quality, both lyrically and musically, absolutely holds up after all these years.
So after covering all this, the bitter feuds, the epic anniversaries, and these legendary comebacks, it really leaves us with a final question to think about. What is it that truly defines a musical legacy? Is it the controversy they stir up, the milestones they achieve, or is it their ability to come back and capture our attention all over again? Something to ponder.